Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Mm,
Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something that I know a lot of you have been curious about, and that is working past retirement. It's more than just like a trend, it's a whole new world out there, and we've got this fantastic resource to help us unpack it all. It's a Canadian guide,
mm.
and it's specifically for older adults who are thinking about, working past retirement age. And get this, some of the stats in this guide are seriously eye-opening.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating shift that's happening, and it's not even just about like the why anymore, it's about the how. People are asking like, how do I actually make this work? What are my options? What should I be thinking about? And that's exactly what we're going to be exploring today.
Perfect. So first things first, this whole thing about working past retirement isn't just some, random thing that's happening. It's actually tied to something pretty major that's going on in Canada right now.
Mm.
And that is a rapidly aging population. The guide points out that in 2020, 18% of Canadians were 65 or older.
Mm.
But get this, by the late 2030s, that number is projected to jump to 24%.
Wow, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a massive increase, and it's going to ripple effects everywhere, especially in the workforce. Think about it, what happens when a much bigger chunk of the population is older. You could end up with shortages in certain jobs.
Mm.
And it definitely means we're going to need to rethink this whole concept of retirement.
Totally. And the numbers back this up in a big way. The guide highlights that the number of people 65 and older who are still working has basically doubled from 6% in 2000 to over 13% in 2020. So this isn't just a few folks deciding to, stick around a little bit longer. This is a huge shift.
And what's really interesting is there isn't just like one single reason for this. The guide lays out this whole like perfect storm of factors that are contributing to this trend. So you've got older adults are better educated than ever before. People are living longer and healthier lives. Retirement plans have changed a lot over the years. There's no mandatory retirement age anymore. And even the types of jobs that are out there are becoming more age friendly.
Okay, wait, age-friendly jobs? What does that even mean? Like, what does that look like in the real world?
So imagine jobs that aren't as physically demanding. Jobs where your experience and knowledge are really your biggest assets. Think about things like flexible schedules, workplaces that are actually set up to accommodate the needs of older workers. It's really about creating a space where someone's age is actually an asset and not a barrier.
So it's not just about pushing back retirement age. It's about changing the whole game, right?
Right.
And honestly, this is relevant for everyone listening, whether you're thinking about retirement, you're already there.
Hmm.
Or even if you're an employer trying to figure out this whole new world of work.
Absolutely. But here's the thing, and the guide really doesn't shy away from this at all. While some people are choosing to work longer, over half of Canadians working past 60 are doing it because they have to. They don't really want to, they have to.
Yeah, that stat really hit me hard when I read it. So what's the story there? Why are so many people feeling this pressure to keep working?
The guide lays it out pretty clearly. It boils down to everyday expenses, mortgages that haven't been paid off yet, needing to help adult children financially. And for some folks, just not having enough pension to actually rely on.
And get this, 60% of older adults who were surveyed are actually supporting their adult children financially. And these aren't even students anymore. We're talking grown-up kids. What does that tell us about what's happening in society right now? Like, is it delayed careers? Is it the higher cost of living? It really makes you think.
Absolutely, a topic worth exploring more deeply for sure. But for now, let's zoom in on the individual for a second. If you're thinking about working past retirement, you really need to understand how it affects your Canada Pension Plan, or CPP.
Yeah, because I'll admit that stuff can make my head spin.
Yeah. Don't worry, the guide breaks it down in a way that's pretty easy to understand. The good news is you can actually work while you're getting CPP payments. But if you're between 60 and 65, you are required to keep contributing to CPP, which actually boosts your future payments down the line. Now, when you hit 65, you have a choice to make. You can either stop contributing to CPP or you can keep going. If you do decide to keep contributing, your employer has to match those contributions. Or if you're self-employed, then you're responsible for both parts.
So there's some serious decision-making to do there. What are the things that someone should consider when they're deciding whether to keep paying into CPP after 65?
Well, it really depends on your individual situation. Are you trying to squeeze every dollar out of your retirement income? Do you absolutely have to keep working longer just to make ends meet? Are you worried about healthcare costs down the line? It's complicated. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. And the guide really encourages people to talk to a financial advisor to figure out what makes the most sense for them.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's say someone decides they do want to keep working. What kind of work are they looking for? The guide mentions a Statistics Canada survey of older workers, and their answers were really interesting.
Oh, yeah, they give us a really good glimpse into what older workers are actually looking for in a job. For example, 47% said that they would prefer to work part-time. 38% said they would be more likely to keep working if they could get both a pension and a wage. And 35% said they're really hoping for work-from-home options.
So that's sending a pretty clear message to employers, right? It's not just about offering any job. It's about offering the right kind of job, one that actually fits the needs and desires of older workers.
Absolutely. And the guide actually goes even further. It gives employers a whole toolkit of strategies to make their workplaces more attractive to older workers. We're talking about things like compressed work weeks, job sharing, work from home, project-based gigs.
Whoa, 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 slow down there. You're like a walking, talking, age-friendly workplace manual. Which of these strategies stand out to you as being particularly interesting or innovative?
Well, one that I find really intriguing is phased retirement. So this allows people who are nearing retirement to gradually scale back their work, maybe going from full-time to part-time or shifting to more like project-based roles. It's kind of a win-win situation. The employee gets a smoother transition into retirement, and the employer gets to keep all that valuable knowledge around a little bit longer.
That's smart, especially for roles where experience is key. But wouldn't that be kind of a logistical nightmare for employers, though? How do you manage workloads when someone's transitioning out like that?
It's a great question, and it really highlights the need for, careful planning and communication. Employers really need to think ahead, identify those key roles where a phased retirement might be beneficial, and then work really closely with employees to create a plan that works for everyone. It might involve cross-training other employees, documenting processes, or even bringing in like temporary support during that transition period.
Okay, so it's not like a simple fix, but it does have the potential to benefit everyone involved.
Exactly. And it's just one example of how employers can be more creative and adaptable in how they approach talent management.
So we've talked about the why behind this trend of working past retirement and some of the how in terms of creating these age-friendly workplaces. But I think it's important to remember that this isn't just about individual workers or even individual companies.
Right. You're right. This trend is having ripple effects throughout our society.
Okay, before we get to the so what for society, let's dive into some real-world examples of how these age-friendly strategies actually play out.
Love it. Let's do it. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we jumped into those examples, we were talking about how this whole idea of working past retirement is reshaping society. Pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is. Okay, so you mentioned real-world examples. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how these age-friendly strategies are being used by actual companies. Because let's be real, sometimes these things sound amazing, like in theory, but how do they actually work in practice?
Exactly. So let's take compressed work weeks, for example, something that the guide highlighted as a really promising strategy. Imagine working, say, 4 10-hour days instead of 5 8-hour days. This can be a total game changer for older workers who maybe don't want that traditional full-time schedule, but they still want to make a real contribution.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely see the appeal of that. A 3-day weekend every week. Sign me up. But wouldn't that be tough for employers to manage, though?
Yeah, it definitely requires some planning and flexibility on the employer's part. They might need to stagger shifts or adjust schedules to make sure everything is covered, but the benefits can actually outweigh the challenges. Think about it. They might actually end up with more coverage during peak times. And they might even save on things like office overhead because people are only there 4 days a week.
That's a really interesting point. So it's kind of a trade-off, but one that could work for both sides. What about job sharing? I feel like that's one we don't hear about very often.
It's kind of a hidden gem. Imagine two people sharing the responsibilities of one full-time position. So this could be perfect for someone who's transitioning into retirement. It's less demanding than a full-time role. You've got a built-in support system because you're working with someone else. You're learning from each other.
Okay, you've almost got me convinced to try it myself. But what about from the employer's perspective? Why would they want to go through all the hassle of splitting a job like that?
Well, for starters, they're getting two sets of skills and experiences for the price of one. It's like having two brains working on a problem. You're more likely to come up with creative solutions, and you're more likely to cover all the bases.
Okay, I see the logic there. Now, one that's really exploded in popularity, and not just for older workers, is working from home or remote work.
Absolutely. The guide points out that this is a huge draw for older workers. No commute, flexible schedule. You can create a comfortable workspace that meets your needs. I mean, who wouldn't love that?
I know I would.
Yeah.
But for someone who maybe has mobility issues or health concerns, it could be life-changing.
Absolutely. Of course, it's not possible for every job, but when it is, it can be a really powerful tool for keeping those experienced workers on board and even attracting new talent. And that goes for people of all ages.
So let's move on to some of the bigger picture strategies that employers can use, like things like phased retirement and recalling retirees.
Right. These are great examples of employers thinking outside the box when it comes to managing talent. So, with phased retirement, you're basically letting someone gradually ease into retirement, maybe reducing their hours or responsibilities over time.
So instead of that abrupt stop, they're slowly stepping back, maybe going from 5 days a week to 4 days a week, or transitioning from a management role to more of a mentorship or training position.
Exactly. It makes for a much smoother transition for everyone involved. And it's a fantastic way to make sure that all that precious experience doesn't just walk out the door when someone fully retires.
And recalling retirees, is that exactly what it sounds like? Bringing people back after they've already retired? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose?
Not at all. It's not about forcing people back into the workforce. It's about recognizing that some retirees might actually be open to coming back for specific projects or during really busy periods. Maybe you need a retired engineer to consult on a new design, or a retired teacher to help out during back to school season.
Hmm, that's a really smart way to tap into a talent pool that's often overlooked. And for the retirees themselves, it can be a way to stay engaged, use their skills, maybe earn some extra income. It really is a win-win.
It is. It's all about recognizing that retirement doesn't have to mean the end of your working life. It can actually be a chance to reinvent yourself, explore new opportunities, stay connected to the workforce in a way that works for you.
So we've talked about those specific strategies, but I think it's important to emphasize that creating a truly age-friendly workplace goes beyond just ticking boxes on a checklist. It's about creating a culture of inclusion and respect for all employees regardless of their age.
Couldn't agree more. It's about recognizing the value that older workers bring, their experience, their knowledge, their work ethic, and making them feel truly valued and respected.
And it's about creating a workplace where they feel comfortable speaking up, sharing their ideas, maybe even mentoring younger colleagues. Speaking of which, the guide mentions succession planning. How does that fit into all of this?
Succession planning is all about thinking ahead, identifying and developing future leaders for the company. And with an aging workforce, it's more important than ever to make sure that there's a smooth handover of knowledge and skills from one generation to the next.
So it's about creating that pipeline of talent and ensuring that the company is ready for the future, even as some of its most experienced people move on.
Exactly. It involves mentoring, cross-training, and giving younger employees those opportunities to learn from the people who've been there and done that.
And for the older workers, it can be a way to kind of leave a lasting legacy, knowing that they've helped to shape the future of the company. Now, what about benefits? The guide mentions that older workers might have different needs when it comes to things like healthcare and work-life balance.
Absolutely. It's not about offering a one-size-fits-all benefits package. It's about creating options that actually address the specific needs of older workers. That might mean more comprehensive healthcare coverage, flexible work arrangements, even things like ergonomic workstations to help prevent injuries.
So it's about going the extra mile to make sure that those older workers feel supported and valued, both professionally and personally.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that their contributions are valuable and that their well-being is a priority.
Okay, so we've explored the strategies, the culture, the benefits. It's a lot to take in. But I think we need to zoom out for a minute and remember that this whole trend of working past retirement is having a much bigger impact than just on individual workplaces.
It's a societal game changer for sure. It's challenging those traditional notions of what it means to be retired. It's raising questions about social programs and policies. And it's even changing how we think about family dynamics and support systems. Remember that stat about older adults supporting their adult children?
Yeah, that one really stuck with me. It's like the traditional timeline of life is being completely rewritten,
Yeah.
and our society is still trying to catch up. We need to rethink how we support an aging population, how work and retirement fit into the picture, and how we build stronger connections between generations.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's not just a workplace issue, it's a societal issue. And that leads us to that final thought-provoking question that the guide poses.
Oh, lay it on me. I'm ready for a good brain teaser.
As lifespans increase and the world of work keeps changing, how will retirement itself be redefined in the coming years? And what new possibilities or challenges does that create for all of us, both as individuals and as a society?
Whoa, that is a big question. It really challenges the whole idea of what retirement is supposed to be, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
is it this hard stop at 65, or is it becoming more of a gradual shift, a whole new chapter with its own opportunities and challenges?
Exactly. Imagine a world where retirement isn't about completely disconnecting from work, but about finding new ways to contribute, to stay active, and to pursue those passions you never had time for before.
I love that idea. It's like retirement becomes more personalized, tailored to what you want, not what society tells you to do.
Hmm.
But that also brings up some new questions, right? Like, how do we make sure everyone has access to these different ways of retiring, not just a privileged few?
That's a crucial point. It's not enough to just redefine retirement. We need to make sure these new models are accessible and equitable for everyone. And that means looking at things like financial security, access to healthcare, and opportunities for lifelong learning.
So it's not just about individual choices. It's about creating a society that supports people as they age, no matter what path they choose.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that people don't just stop being valuable members of society when they reach a certain age. They have skills, experience, and wisdom that can benefit everyone.
That reminds me of something you said earlier about the brain drain that can happen when experienced people retire. But what if we flipped that script? What if we saw this as an opportunity for brain gain, where older workers are mentoring younger generations, sharing their knowledge, and helping to build a stronger future?
Now you're talking. That's the kind of shift in thinking we need. Instead of seeing aging as a loss, we can see it as a gain for both individuals and for society as a whole.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, this is all fascinating, but what does it actually mean for me?
Hmm.
What would you say?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is this. Future of work and retirement is being written right now, and you have a role to play. Whether you're planning for your own retirement, thinking about how this impacts your workplace, or even just considering the kind of society you want to live in, it's time to start asking those big questions.
What does retirement look like for you? What kind of work do you want to do or not do? How can you use your skills and experience to make a difference, even if it's not in a traditional job? And how can we as a society create a world where everyone has the opportunity to age with purpose and dignity?
Powerful questions. And I think the guide we've been exploring today provides some really valuable starting points for answering them. It's packed with information on everything from financial planning to age-friendly workplaces to the social implications of this whole shift.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap things up for today. A huge thank you to you for sharing your expertise and helping us unpack all of this.
It's been my pleasure. Always happy to dive deep into these important topics.
And to all of you listening out there, we encourage you to explore the source material yourself and continue this conversation. The future of aging and work is something we're all creating together.
So let's make it a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, contribute, and live a life filled with meaning and purpose.
Beautifully said. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, and keep exploring all the possibilities that lie ahead.